Hang on,
Hiya, Chris.
how you doing, Kay?
Monday morning.
Yes, we gotta be in the right attitude for Monday morning.
Attitude it is, yeah. We
And
have
why?
to,
And why is that? Why have we got to be in the right attitude today?
well, I'm particularly laughing because my social media post is called Motivating Monday.
Oh, I like that.
And
I love
it's
that.
got a dancing cow on it. And it's all about you setting up the right attitude. And you are so great at that. You're bloody great.
Well, I don't. Well, the thing is, I guess the question i- is that is attitude a skill? What is it? What is it?
Well, definitely a skill, and you and I both know that we teach people the mechanics of
Yeah,
state.
yeah,
So there are lots of skills involved. But I think the bit that many people forget is it's the intention that sets the direction, as we talk
absolutely.
about in NLP, and it's the intention to be better in the next minute than I am
Yeah,
this minute or the
brilliant.
next day or the next moment in time. And that requires a willingness sometimes to push through. Because we all know what it's like to have a sticky attitude or feel a bit, unmotivated. But yeah, so to answer your question, I think it's a skill.
Yeah,
Attitude is a skill or a set of skills, but it's a definite higher level concept, a choice
yeah,
about it. I don't know. I maybe we'll dive deeper into that. And we agreed that we would chat about attitude today.
yeah. We did.
But something that I often smile about and tell people is years ago, when actually I wasn't in that brilliant a place in my own world. They called me Pollyanna at the college where I was lecturing. In the staff room, they were sort of diehard. Oh, I was young, and they were much older than me, and I would sort of breeze in and be, smiley, happy, even masking some of the
Yeah,
difficulties that I was facing at home
yeah.
in my personal life, and they would just call me Pollyanna, which actually I found a little bit hurtful at the time, but now from this point in view, I was like, yeah, actually, yeah, I was making the best of the moments. That's
Yeah,
my attitude.
and it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because you know, very often people, if I tell you, I um, I went to the football on Saturday, right?
You did?
And of course, the football is beyond my control, right? So I never go to the game thinking, yeah, we're going to win this ever, right? I've supported this same team since 1978, Arsenal, right? So
Who?
I know exactly, right? And I've seen them through the unbelievably amazing times, but also through the unbelievably terrible times, right? They're a football team, okay? And the team remains constant, but the people in the team differ all the time, right? So Arsenal is the brand, it's the philosophy, it's the community, it's everything, right? But at the same time, it's also the players on the pitch and how they perform against the competition. So what's really interesting, two things. I turned up there, and of course, I sit with the same people. I've been sitting with the same people for 14 years, right? So we've got our own little WhatsApp group. It's unbelievable, right? And I turned up, and of course, I've been doing a few little posts on Instagram, right? And I walk in, and I'm like, boys, I'm a little bit nervous. And they're like, what are you nervous about? We're playing Nottingham Forest. We should batter them, right? And they explained all this, all why. And I was like, well, okay, I feel a bit better now. And anyway, the guy that sits next to me said, and how could you, of all people, be kind of in that kind of way? I've been watching your Instagram posts and they are so energetic, lively, and full of positive attitude. And then you come here with your, oh, I'm not sure. And I'm like, that's because I'm not in control of the team. And they were like, yeah, yeah, I get it now. I get it. I get it. I get it. And I think sometimes, you know, like you said, you can be Pollyanna, right? And so the question is, do you drive the attitude or does the attitude drive you?
Is that a question to
Yeah,
me?
it is. That in general, right? And not you specifically.
I
I
know,
should
I
say
know.
does
One,
one.
one,
Yes.
one,
Yeah.
darling.
Oh, yes.
I do. I think it's both, and
Mm,
that reminds me of the importance of understanding that we are in a constant relationship with the world around us.
yeah.
We're in a relationship within ourselves, and we're in relationship with our thoughts, with our emotions, with our behaviors, with the impact and involvement that we have in the outside world, including people and places
Yes.
and things,
Yeah.
environments and so on. And you know, as you say, the only thing that we have any control over is where we put our attention.
Yeah.
And I think it was Wayne Gretzky who said the only place that you have any control over is the 6-inch playing field with between your ears.
Yes.
And I think even more specific than that, it's where you place your attention in that
Yes.
space. And I choose to place my attention, this is my attitude for life,
Yeah.
on the things that will enlighten me, but
Mm.
also the space around me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to answer your question, I think it's a dynamic. I think it's a dynamic. And to your point about the football match, um, yeah, what influences what? Does the attitude of the crowd influence the players? Does the attitude of the players influence the crowd? Does the attitude of um, the PR machine
Yeah.
influence the players and so on? So we've got all these different dynamics influencing each other,
Yeah.
and again, I believe very strongly that we need to understand better what influences our attitude
Yes.
and regain the sovereignty. And
Yeah.
thinking about the week that's just been with the murder of Charlie Kirk, without
Yeah.
being political in any way about it, it's, I suspect that somebody's attitude towards him was changed enough for them to become a murderer.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know, but that level of curiosity in my mind brings up how we are being influenced, our
Yes.
attitudes are being influenced all the time, particularly on social media,
Yeah.
particularly in echo chambers
Yeah.
and so on. And I fight for the right to have independent thinking
Yeah.
and the critical thinking that I believe we require, which is one of those component parts of attitude,
Yeah.
um, which is, yeah, it's okay. I might disagree with you. I might vehemently disagree with you, but my attitude is I am curious about how we're different. I'm curious about how we're similar. I'm curious about what um, what will make my life and our life shinier and
Yeah.
brighter.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? Now you've mentioned what you just mentioned, I kind of think what are people doing to protect their attitude on a day-to-day basis? I mean, what do you do to kind of protect yours on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I wouldn't use the word protect,
Mm,
actually. I would probably, well, first of all, you have to be congruent
yep,
within yourself, don't
yep,
you? And it's that old adage, know thyself, and be clear about the mechanics of your own state. And
yep,
um, so so there's that, and then recognizing, when am I centered, when am I grounded, when am I authentic, and when am I veering in an offbeat way. Sometimes that's useful because we can get lots of information when we're out of our comfort zone.
yep.
But so so I suppose protection is not really in my vocabulary. It's more about recognizing when I am centered and grounded. And then there's that layer of, well, then I choose not to watch the news. Um,
Yeah,
and I choose to, if I find that I'm off center in some way, I choose ways to regulate my nervous system with music or movement or exercise, or aligning with like-minded people and exploring the space and the expanding consciousness. So in a way, that's protection, but it's protection's perhaps not a word I would use.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What
fine.
about you? What do you do?
Yeah, good question. I guess, the reason I'm kind of asking this is because sometimes people say to me, "Oh, you're always so positive," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's because I kind of choose to decide that I'm not gonna I want to give out positivity to the world, but
Yeah,
not fake positivity. I
yeah,
want people to see me as a kind of happy person with a great attitude and someone that would people would rather be around than not, as the case may be, right? But that's not because I'm thinking what will other people think of me. I just am myself, right? But in order for that to happen every day, I get up earlier than most people. I then meditate first, and then I kind of think I'm grateful that I'm still here, and I'm actually grateful for what I've achieved or who I'm with, and my family and my wider family, my ancestors. I know it gets a little bit woo, but I'm grateful for that. Those people actually gave me some wisdom, passed it on to me, and still are. And then I go for a run, right? So that obviously gets the old dopamine going and gets all the endorphins. I do a little bit of a workout when I get after I've done my run, and then I feel like, whoa, now I feel really good. And then I have a cup of peppermint tea, have a shower, and I'm ready for the day. And that's before most people have even woken up.
yeah. That's awesome, and I know that that's you've shared that before. And but peppermint tea, Chris. Why not coffee?
Well, so I do have coffee, right? I know it's going to shock you, right? I know. It's because I started reading these books on having a long life, and they say that, and very often people say, well, one coffee a day before lunchtime is quite good for fat burning and all this kind of stuff. I thought, oh, I'll try it. And it hasn't actually made me any madder than I already am, right? And because I'm doing it kind of before midday, then that's the only caffeine I'll have. And the rest of the time, that's why I stick to kind of peppermint tea and some of those other teas. Other teas are available. But yeah, so yeah, so
I,
I do have one coffee a day now.
I can't
I
imagine
know,
you on caffeine, Chris. I cannot imagine that.
and I haven't had it yet. So just so you know, right? So I know. So there we are.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
but you're right. It's infectious. Attitude is infectious,
yeah,
isn't it? And it nervous system to nervous system, we resonate within groups.
Yes.
So, there is a saying, isn't there, in somewhere, that the most dominant state will control or influence the room the most,
Absolutely.
and the most dominant state is usually the most congruent one. That's really what
Yes.
we're talking
Yeah.
about. And it is infectious, and that's a wonderful thing. But it can also, the other end of that is, it can be quite damning, when you're
Yes.
with somebody whose attitude for life is, what's the point? It's all a waste of time. Everything's going to shit,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. We all know what that's like, to be around somebody who
Yeah.
has that attitude for life and living, and it's like a suction into this pit of despair, this negative spiral. And almost, if you've got any markers in your field of consciousness, it's like it'll suck you down, and you're like, whoa, whoa, yeah, vampire-ish.
Yeah. See, now you said that, in my brain, I had psychic vampire.
Yeah.
Literally that, right? Brilliant. I love that.
and
This,
and it's
yeah,
true.
yeah, it
It's
is.
true, isn't it? We all know that. And there are many occasions where we have to be in contact with people like that.
Of
Okay,
course.
that's
Yeah.
fair enough. um but to choose to stay there, that requires a decision. And you talk about the mechanics of attitude. Decision is part of that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is.
Vision to where you place your attention, and recognizing how, long before language, that nervous system to nervous system is having its own communication.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if I was down in the dumps, you'd definitely be on my speed dial. Well, and in fairness, I think we just also need to make the point that sometimes, if you are at one end of the uh, metaphoric, I'm going to say seesaw, so somebody who's really struggling with an attitude for living, and
Yes.
you come into contact with somebody who's full of the vibrance of living, the gap's too big.
Too big. Yeah, I agreed. Agreed. And very often when I'm working in the corporate environment, I tone down myself just a little bit, so that people can jump on the train.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then we go, right? I guess my my metaphor for life, it's a bit like, when you go to a wedding, right? And they start playing the music, and you see the people, some people instantly go on the dance floor, right? And then other people are like, "Oh, no, I don't really want to dance, but and then the people who are on the dance floor go, come on, you want it. And then those people then go on the dance floor and they're like, oh yeah, this is great now. And then it's spreading, isn't it? And then before you know it, the people that don't even dance, they're on the dance floor.
Yeah.
And then the whole atmosphere changes, doesn't it? Right? So in my mind, that's what I've got in my head all the time, right? But I know that people are different. So, you know, you can't expect everyone to be like, come on, because the world would be a crazy place if it was, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and again, I think that a wedding is a really great example. You want to have an attitude of joyful,
Absolutely.
celebration, of happiness and connection, and everything. The attitude that you need when you're taking your driving test is one of focus and, calm and focus and confidence. The attitude you need when you're problem solving,
Yeah,
and so on. So it's that sort of what's the requirement here?
exactly. Exactly.
And is it fit for purpose? And yeah, I think that's always the question in my mind, is the attitude the one that's going to take us in the direction we need to go to next?
And
So
go on, go for it.
so I was just going to ask you, so I know that you're just about to go off on holiday for a short period of time. What's the attitude that gets you through the bit between leaving home and getting to the holiday destination? Because you've got air taxis, airports, baggage handling, queues. Yeah, already you're changing
Well, it's the thing is, because I do it so regularly, right? I have my own routine and rituals, right? Like I've got my headphones, right? So I wear my headphones during the airport so I don't get infected with people's panic or chaos or disappointment that their flights aren't going. You know how people are at their worst sometimes at airports, aren't they? Right? So I'm like, I don't want any of that infecting me. So I normally wear my headphones and I normally find a quiet place, or if I'm lucky, like today, we'll be going to the lounge. So and I'll find a very quiet place in the lounge. My wife and I will sit there and have our lunch together and just relax and get ourselves. In fact, what we're going to do when we get to the airport is look at all the lovely places that are local to the hotel so that we can get ourselves in a, yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I wish you a fabulous holiday,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
The bit that you spoke about, you put your headphones on when you're not traveling with your wife, but if you're traveling on business, you prepare yourself for the
Yes.
environment that you're about to go into.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a big decision, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's a good decision to do that as much as you can,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, that really does make a big difference to me anyway. You know, I, I have two sets of headphones, Kay, right? I've got my headphones which go around my ears. So I use those so I can be aware of announcements and little things like that. And then, but when I get on the plane, I just put my big headphones on, the noise cancelling ones, because I really just want to focus on whatever I'm focusing on. It could be some work, could be some music, it could be a podcast, could be a movie. I just want to just center myself, as you say, and just have a lovely flight and a lovely journey, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, there we are.
Have you ever experienced your attitude being really challenged?
Yeah, let me give you an example. And this is really uh, the other day I was recommending a book. So this is why social media for me is something I try to avoid in some ways, going right down the rabbit holes, if that makes sense. Um, so I did a post and it was on that longevity book, which I think I was, and a lot of people, people like, nice, lovely, lovely. And then one person just wrote, oh, what a cliche, blah, 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 blah. And, those things, if you allow them to, can take you down another path, can't they? Because then you start justifying why you did the thing. And I was thinking, it's social media. Why am I? So I just wrote back, you're right, smiley face, right? To whatever the comment was, because in their mind, they're right. So what's the point of me trying to now correct the person? So I just went, you're right. And then that was it. He just sent back a love heart, and that was the end. And I thought that could have gone down a hideous path, which would have then affected everybody else's attitude if they were if they saw that post, if they saw the comments. So I thought, no, I'm not going to play that game. So, but yeah, to answer your question, it does happen on a regular basis. I'm not skipping around like a unicorn every day. It's happening a lot. And really, it's down to me then to choose how I respond to somebody else's attitude.
Yeah. And having the wisdom to understand the structures of other human thinking
Yes,
or non-thinking.
or non-thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And yeah, and the grace to handle it with well, with grace, really,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
It's, and get staying out of the dramas and staying out of the um there's a game playing, any of that, and when you can stay out of that, I think that's an attitude for a healthy life.
yeah. Agreed, agreed, agreed. I'm totally agree. Some of these people who talk about positive psychology, like Martin Seligman, and they'll show you the data which shows that people who are more optimistic in their outlook live longer, right? So I kind of think let's try and make the glass half full most of the time, even if it's a football game. You know, make it half full. You know,
And then there's an area, I suppose, in this conversation that probably anybody listening to this would say, yeah, but what about? And what about the people who are really struggling? What about the people who will never see or hear people like us because they're really stuck through ill health or tragedy or in a war zone or whatever, uh, and and I suppose it feels right for me to just recognize
yeah,
that
absolutely.
there are some terrible things that people experience,
Yeah,
um, and often feel defined by.
yeah,
But the one thing that they can control is where they place their attention. And I guess what comes through for me is the book Man's Search for Meaning with Victor
yeah,
Frankl. And that even in a concentration camp, seeing everybody around him being mutilated, tortured, and murdered, and so on, he chose where he placed his attention. And that I remember reading that book decades ago, um, and that really stuck with me because
yeah,
even when things are really difficult and really shit, and we've both experienced times
yeah,
in our lives and situations and events that might surprise people actually at
yeah, yeah, yeah,
what they were, but
yeah,
having the attitude to get back up and
yeah,
focus and move forward is and the willingness to do what it takes to have a good relationship with living
yes.
is kind of what defines us. Does any of that make sense? And have you read that book?
Read the book, loved it, and actually, funny enough, I actually gave it to my father-in-law as well at one point because he sounded a little bit down about something, and I just said, "Have a read, listen, tell me what you think. Just give me your opinion." And by the time he'd finished reading, he was like, "Oh wow!" But the whole point for me was there were so many near-death experiences for Viktor Frankl in that book. You kind of, I mean you can see why some people become euphoric when they've been through a scenario where they could have died, right? And actually, when you read that book, you think, wow, how did he survive? But a lot of it was down to, like you said, where he put his attention the whole time, you know. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's great book. Absolutely brilliant book. I'd recommend anyone to read. It doesn't matter what their attitude of mind is at any particular time. It's a great book to read. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And yeah, there's another one for you to recommend on social media.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Really, really, really good. And I think it's interesting because again, even reading is something that I do to I won't say the word protect my attitude, but to keep my attitude in in a good place. Because very often when you read circumstances of other human beings, you think, how did they manage? If they can do that, surely I can make five more calls to customers. Surely I can, finish off this piece of work that I'm supposed to be doing. Surely I can do a few more push-ups. So that kind of thing helps to give context, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I'm smiling, and actually, I'm going to share something with you
Go
because
on.
it's fresh on my mind. And I think that learning from others is what we do really well as human beings,
Yes.
as mammals, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mimicking others, trying it on, you
Yeah.
know, and and certainly as small children, the imprinting, that's how we learn fastest, and I think that's it. But you also have to have the filters for being open um to something that's different to
Yeah.
your own experience and your own field of programming, really.
Yeah.
That was making me smile is there's a brilliant video on YouTube. If you Google, I think it's some capuchin monkeys in comparison study.
Right.
And there are two capuchin monkeys, and they live together, and everything's the same. The relationship's great. And in the experiment, it's about fairness. They're always fed chunks of cucumber,
Right.
and they seem to like it, and they're happy with the cucumber. And there's an experiment that's set up where the whoever it is gives them a stone through a cage, and then they have to do something with the stone, and then or hand it back, and then they get the reward of the piece of cucumber. Really simple stuff. And then the experiment is suddenly one of the monkeys is rewarded with grapes, and the other monkey just gets his cucumber.
Right.
And it's hilarious, Chris, because the monkey the moment it recognizes that it's being treated unfairly by getting cucumber, and the other monkey is getting grapes and getting a perceived bigger reward, something new and novel and tastier, it goes absolutely crazy, and it starts throwing the cucumber chunk back at the person in the lab coat, and it's rattling the cages, and I think there's something, the reason that came up, I guess for me, is I'm thinking about,
Mm.
we compare ourselves to others in oh, there's I really want to be like that person, or I can learn from that person. But the other end of that, the other way it works, is we can feel deflated in some way, or that there's an unfairness, and that comparison to the outside world sometimes can take us in a sort of mammalian brain way out of our freedom. And the attitude that we keep coming back to decide that there is difference, and we can decide with our attitude that we can learn something wonderful from even those difficult experiences. I think it's cool. I don't know if I've kind of gone off down a
No, 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 no. Do you
path.
know what? I was thinking about what's going on in the country today without getting all political. But you think about it, that's what's happening. People are like, are those people getting grapes over there? They don't deserve them. I deserve the grapes, and you're just giving me, I'm getting half a cucumber. And that is literally tearing everyone down at the moment, isn't it? I mean, not everyone, because not everyone's getting bought, everyone's getting heavily involved in all of that. But that is basically what's been happening for a long time, hasn't it?
So true.
And it's how do you maintain your focus
Yeah.
when all of this stuff's happening? Because it can affect you, can't it? You know?
Yeah. And yeah. And the decision to choose your attitude to living and life and your future is within your control.
Absolutely. It's really interesting. Um, I I mean, even the people that we've kind of hung around with over the last couple of decades, they don't, they're not giving up their life, are they? They're not giving up their work, they're not giving up their mission. They just keep going, don't they? And they're past retirement age, right? And that kind of unconsciously has taught me why retire when you've still got your mission inside you, right? And that's such an important thing. So, first, have a mission, whatever that is. It could just be to raise your family in a great way, right? And then do something to kind of keep you motivated on a day-to-day basis and, make sure that your attitude is where it's going to be resourceful or make you in the most resourceful way, and then just keep focusing on your mission all the time. Is this going to affect my mission or is it not? I mean, even going away for 3 days with Mrs. Cummins is part of our mission to continue our relationship over the long, for as long as we possibly can throughout our life. You know, these little things are things that can, keep the glass half full rather than half empty. So, yeah,
And it's playing the long game, isn't it?
yeah,
That
yeah,
that attitude of, well, whatever's going on right now, if you're playing the long game, and your relationship with yourself, with your partner, with your immediate family, with your community group, with the world around you. Yeah, and I think in business speak, people get confused about the word mission or
mm,
mission statement or
yeah,
purpose or whatever. And
vision.
I think that's vision. And I think that's to be clear, that I don't think that's what you and I are talking about here. We're talking about
No,
something much simpler,
yes,
which is our social responsibility, our contribution to
yeah,
the environment, the people around us, and that attitude that you can be of service.
yeah,
My mission, if you like to use your parlance,
yeah,
to be of service to the good
yeah,
that exists in the world,
yeah,
and to contribute positively to that,
yeah,
as opposed to the opposite. Uh,
yeah, exactly. It's so funny. My kids, well, actually, they've caught the spirit themselves as well. But I say hello to people when I'm walking down the road. Doesn't matter who they are, right? If we get eye contact, I'm gonna nod and say hello, right? My family in the Caribbean, in Barbados, I can guarantee you, you walk down the street in Barbados, there's only 250,000 population, right? So you're not anonymous there as much, and so people say hello. They just it's people just say hello when they're walking past each other. You don't walk past each other and kind of look away. You kind of walk past and morning, 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 that kind of thing. And I kind of there's something about that which I think as humans, it's a lovely thing. It's kind of saying I'm connecting with you, and we as a wider species are connected. So and there's a lot of people within a square mile, square kilometer of where I live that know me, but we don't know why we know each other. Apart from I say hello when I'm running, or I say hello when I'm going for my speed walking, or I say hello when I'm with my kids, or, but we just say hello. And so you recognize each other's
Yeah.
faces.
It was a really interesting experience I've had recently, where I've just moved, and the summer's been amazing weather-wise, and the place that I've moved to has got a great vibe. And I've often thought, oh, I feel like I'm on holiday. And
Yeah,
when you're on holiday, you do that, don't you? You
yeah,
nod to people in the
yeah,
street, you smile, you say hello, or whichever language it might be, and hola.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And you're out in the forest doing bonjour,
yeah,
bonsoir. It's just that holiday vibe that we have, but actually on our home territory,
yes,
it's not so common. Most
yeah,
people have got their heads on, they're on screens, they've got headphones on, they're walking very insular and not looking up. And I noticed that because my feeling of being in a new environment and all of my senses are open to all of the newness of it and the vibe of summer and holiday and so on, that I have spoken to more strangers
yeah,
the last 6 weeks or so, probably than I've ever done before. And even started up random conversations because
yeah,
I hear a dialogue that reminds me of where I used to live, or somebody's got an animal that reminds me of one of my pets, or something like that. And I've broke, but it's the holiday vibe,
yeah.
that attitude of when you're on holiday, I don't know. There's just something about that, but yeah, I don't know.
Oh, no, I do know. It's really interesting because we went to um, where was it? We went to Ramsgate, right? The other week, and it was me, Kate, the children, and another lovely family that we go on holiday with. Because the kids are all about the same age, and they all get on. They've known each other since they were babies. So we've been doing these little, 2 days here, 3 days there. It's lovely camping sometimes or glamping, uh, you know, and it's been brilliant, really, really good. And again, we go away, and. You just end up talking to people. You just end up, having conversations, and it's lovely. And it's literally 40 miles from where we live,
Yeah,
right? But it's amazing how just changing the environment a little bit can change how you think about life, the universe, and everything, and then how that impacts how you behave towards other people. Amazing, isn't it?
very much change the environment
Yeah.
more than
So
more than a metaphor. Uh,
more than a metaphor. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm also thinking about you talking about your family fun and that you're sort of very gregarious and vivacious family. And I think that your attitude as a leader of the family, and that's what parents are, they're leaders,
Yeah. Yeah.
is becomes infectious to the attitudes of the children
Yeah.
uh, and that exists in business. It exists in all social structures. The
Sure.
attitude of the leadership is infectious. So, I think often caution parents, the families that still sit together and have a meal, but just your attitude for the day that you've just had, that you're sharing with your kids, is informing them on deep structure levels about how they are to have an attitude as adults.
Yeah.
If you sit and discuss everything that went wrong in the day and blaming the outside world and feeling helpless and hopeless, that attitude pervades the system.
Yeah, don't be too
So
surprised if your kids are kind of uh, lacking accountability for certain things and blaming each other for stuff if they get it from you. And I exactly, and I used to have this boss, and he used to say, Chris, if you're white hot, your team will be red hot. If you're red hot, your team will be hot. If you're hot, your team will be warm. If you're warm, your team will be cold. And if you're cold, your team will be and uh, and I used to think, what does he mean by that? But I now kind of years later I realize, and so I always tell this when I'm doing my talks, and people go, "Yes, we must be white hot," and I'm like, "Yeah, as long as the white hot is good white hot." Not exploding with anger white hot, because like children don't do what you tell them, they do what they see. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you're
Feel,
absolutely right.
feel.
And
So
feel, of
yeah,
course,
that
and feel.
as we
Yeah,
know, the first place that change happens is in the deeper structures in the nervous
absolutely.
system. So, if they're feeling anger and agitation and threat at the meal table, then that's what they're learning.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And actually, it's quite interesting because sometimes people do have histrionics at our dinner table, but then what happens is everybody else looks at them like, mate, you're having a bad day? Come on, let me give you a cuddle. I don't want a cuddle. And then like, come on, you know you want it. And then after a while, they're like, all right then. And then it and then it dissipates. Right. But it's really good because we've set up these norms at our dinner table and it kind of works exactly what you're saying. Right. But that's down to us not responding as parents to our children's attitude and kind of being like, what do they say? Be more like a thermostat than a thermometer.
Oh, I like
Right?
that.
Because obviously the thermostat you control a little bit. The thermometer, you're just at the whims and vagaries of what the temperature is, right? So yeah. So there we are. I love that.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Great.
Oh, that's A for attitude.
A for attitude.
We've done
Great.
A for attitude, so next time will be B for something. Don't know
Yeah.
what yet.
No, not yet. We've got to think that through. Uh, but watch this space is all we can say for what the B's gonna be. Huh?
What
Huh?
B's going to be?
Yeah.
Be well.
Be
Be
well. It could be anything. So
well, be good. And
brilliant.
it's great to chat with you.
Always good.
And
Listen,
have a wonderful holiday.
I certainly will. I certainly will. I will be enjoying myself.
Oh, very clever, very good. And yeah, have fun. I know you will.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Kate. Another good one. Take it easy.
Take care.
Bye.